Hey there, welcome to the Blue Sky Sanctuary. That's my property in the Baja in Mexico, where I've been living off grid since 2022. And today I'm happy to be sharing with you some of the things that I've learned over the last few years that might help you to transition to off-grid living if that's something that you're thinking about doing. So I'm going to jump right in to lesson number one. I got schooled right out the gate because when I purchased this property, I didn't have access to it until I actually had to come live here. And that was circumstances out of my control. It was a paperwork issue that is not uncommon in Mexico. But basically what that meant is that I arrived on this piece of land with no septic, no cistern, and had to make some hard decisions. The decision that I chose to make was not to use my black water tank in the camper and hope that the septic system was going to be done in time. Instead, I used a bucket, and like a cat, I would go and bury the contents of the bucket around the property every day. Because what I learned about building in Mexico over the last handful of years is that you can't have a rigid timeline and you can't expect things to be done by a specific date, because it more often than not won't happen. And I know I made the right decision, but I am trying to save you having to make the same decision and set these things up before you get to the land where you're going to be living off grid. So basically, set up your cistern, which is your holding tank for your clean water, and set up your septic system, which is the holding tank for your black water and your waste. That will make your life so much easier. On the same note, your energy system. Mine is a solar system, and whatever yours is going to be, I'd love to encourage you to invest more in it than you think you need. And I learned that over the last couple of years, from living in my camper with a very small solar system to moving into the house that we built and having a much bigger solar system. My quality of life has improved significantly. And so to make that investment for your future, you're going to thank yourself for years to come. I can almost promise you. Where if you're underpowered, you're going to resent not having more power on a regular basis, I'm pretty sure. I see this on YouTube as well with people who are living off grid and really struggling. A lot of those struggles could be resolved by having more power. So while you are still in a position, if you are in a position to make some money and make a bigger investment in your energy supply, I would recommend doing that. So that is kind of thought number one, or tip number one, what I've learned here in the last couple years. Tip number two is more of like an inner work thing, which is for you to know your why you want to live off grid, basically, because that is part of what's going to help get you through when times get tough. I know that's been the case for me. Like when I'm really struggling and I'm sweating buckets and I'm dirty and gross and tired and I'm dealing with a situation I don't want to be dealing with, and then I remember why I'm doing this, which for me is because I am wanting to set up the most comfortable future for myself and my family and my loved ones and my friends, if they want to be here with me. I just want to set it up as well as I can so that I feel comfortable and safe and I have resources that I can rely on. Because in Mexico, you can't rely on the grid. And that's the case in Canada as well, but here it's more evident on a regular basis. So here the city water is not on for anybody 24/7. I don't know anybody who gets it 24/7. Everybody that I know, and myself in my previous property, I got it in the day, every day in the day. But some people just get it at night. Some people only get it twice a week. Some people get it every other day. So you just can't rely on it. Whereas if you're off grid and you have a cistern that's holding your water, you control when that water gets used, but you have it available every day. And that's really comforting. Same with the solar energy. It gets replenished every day, but also I'm in control of how much of it I use and when, which is so comforting, because when you need it the most here, which is in the hottest season, is when the system crashes the most. And so being able to control your own power supply is incredible. On the note of the utilities, I just want to define off-grid so that you know where I'm at and exactly how I'm living, so we're on the same page, which is basically off-grid, according to Google, is where the individual and the property are not connected to power, which is electricity, or water through cables or pipes. And that is exactly as my property is. We are not connected to the utilities of the city. And the next level of off-grid living is off the grid, which is where the person then is disconnected from pretty much everything, from the internet, from having a bank account, from going to the store. Like, they're off the grid, checked out of the matrix. That's not me. What I have been saying is I'm kind of like soft off the grid, because I still very much use the resources that are in town. I go to the laundromat, I go to the grocery store, but I'm also setting myself up and practicing for when or if those resources aren't available in the future. And I can feel that I need the practice. For example, with growing food, it takes practice. I'm not that great at it, but I've been practicing for 2 years and I'm getting better. So that's my why, long story short. I'd love to know your why. If you want to share with me in the comments, I'd love to hear that. But knowing that will really help you stay motivated and disciplined and do what you need to do to make your off-grid life a reality. My third and final tip for you to ease your transition to off-grid living would be to go and try it first. And I don't mean go camping for a week. I mean go and live off-grid. So ideally that would be somewhere where there's someone there who's facilitating things for you and helping you know what to do in certain situations. That would be the ideal, which happens to be what I have available here at the sanctuary. But I'm not suggesting that you need to come here for that experience. You can go anywhere around you, do some research, and find someone or something that could replicate off-grid living for you so that you can get the reality check and also maybe a good dose of inspiration, which is what I received when I went to visit Sean Sands in Grand Forks in British Columbia, Canada, easily over a decade ago. And I'm going to put a link to a video that features his property on this in the video description, so you can check him out if you want to. But that planted a seed inside of me that just grew and kept me so inspired, because I wanted to have something like that. I didn't know if I would ever be able to pull it off, but now I'm definitely halfway there, and that had a lot to do with where I'm at now. So I want to encourage you to go give it a try before making big changes in your life, so that you can see if the adventure of off-grid living is something that you really want to contend with, or if it's just the idea of it that you love, which is human nature. I have things like that in my life too, where I love the idea of it, but the reality of it is not really what I want. So go try it out. And if that feels really good and you feel really inspired from that, you can continue to make the next move. So that's all I've got for you today. I hope this kind of gives you some food for thought. If you've got any questions about off-grid living or anything that I've mentioned in this video, please put them in the comments. I appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you again on the next video. Bye for now. So there it is, my sanctuary. Day one, we got right to work clearing the land by hand, basically removing anything that would endanger my dogs or anything that was completely dead and would not be coming back to life. I also had a couple of guys that are putting up the fence for me. The bobcat came not long after and carved out a driveway and space for the camper. And we were really mindful of the local plants in all of this process and protected them as much as possible. So you can see here, my first big challenge was on moving day, a delivery of sand and gravel got placed exactly where the camper was supposed to be parked. So my foreman called in a bunch of favors and had about 10 guys here moving those piles one wheelbarrow at a time, and amazingly we got it done that day. You can also see the truck that would bring water for us, just giant barrels of water for whatever we needed it for. 150-point turn, and we got the camper in where I wanted it. And in the weeks to come, we got right to work on the septic system, which connected directly to the camper. and then the cistern, which is the holding tank for water, that's at the top of the property. And I took some time to carve in some conscious words into that cistern so those good vibrations would go into the water for years to come. And that's it. Beautiful, fresh and new, and getting filled. That was an exciting day. That was a game changer to get that water on the property. We then built a cement pad in front of the camper just to mitigate dust and make a nice sitting area outside, and we made some shade, which has evolved over the years. That is essential living off-grid in Mexico for sure. And this is what I do every day, working outside. There's always something to do, but I'm also always catching the sunsets, if not directly, then certainly peripherally, and I am up with the sunrise and just really appreciating the life that off-grid living has inspired me to live. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again soon.